This is one of only 2 EPA pesticide laboratories out of 13 to survive the Reagan Revolution. Neither is capable of even verifying the pesticide studies that industry submits.
When you rely on the Fox to provide all of the information and you have no way of checking on it, then you have to rely on his integrity to do so. I have seen industries report things that were damaging to them ultimately, yes. I have no sense whatsoever, nor do I have confidence that they do this with any regularity.
What does that say to you?
Well, it says to me that we have probably created a bad law.
The law ended up creating a Bill of Rights for older pesticides. It allowed chemicals in use before 1972 to remain on the market until EPA proves conclusively they are dangerous. These workers will continue to be exposed to them even though EPA may already have serious doubts about their safety. Take carrots, for example. Federal law permits the residues of 40 pesticides in carrots. EPA now believes 8 may be cancer agents. All of them were registered for use before 1972. And under the law, these old chemicals have special rights. Captan, for example, is a fungicide first registered in 1951. Animal studies have indicated it causes cancer, birth defects, and genetic disorders. 12 years ago, EPA began the process of canceling Captan. Yet Captan can still be used on 74 food crops, including grapes. Its maker, ICI Americas, wouldn't talk to Frontline, and the EPA is bound by law.
If you've got an older pesticide that's already on the market, it's got the right to stay on the market until EPA can prove that risks exceed benefits. And that's very scientifically difficult often, and also legally, the burden of proof on EPA is a very heavy one.
Anything from USDA yet?
Well, USDA, we have one report that was dated, I think, 84-85. It was a draft report.
But right now, it's the best data that we have, and it's the data that we have to go on.
These EPA economists are conducting a risk-benefit analysis of a so-called suspect chemical with valuable food crop uses.
Since California is impacted and is a major producer of carrots, their dependency on the suspect chemical is a major concern at this point.
The law won't permit EPA to just ban a chemical that has major economic benefits. If it tries, the appeals process could take years or even decades.
You comfortable with everything other than carrots?
These discussions have the difficult task of weighing the risks to the public health against the economic impact on everyone from farmers to supermarkets to consumers.
Yeah, I think we should be definitely keeping in mind that different regulatory options other than just cancellation.
The chemical industry was able to get provisions put in the law that gives them many, many bites at the apple. They get opportunities at the EPA to slow down the process. They get additional administrative hearings. And then finally, if they go to court, the process starts all over again as if the agency had never done anything or spent years studying a chemical.
So this just maintains the status quo?
And the result is nothing gets done.
Frontline requested interviews with the chief executives of the leading companies still producing and selling old chemicals. We wanted to ask why none had satisfied the requirements of re-registration after 20 years. All of them declined. And all referred us to their Washington lobbyist, Jay Verum.
But we wanted to talk about specific products those companies have been making for a number of years. You don't make products.
No, that's correct.
And you can't talk about them.
No, I am not in a position to speak to individual product questions.
It sounds kind of a catch-22 situation for a journalist trying to find out.
Well, why don't we talk to them together?
You think you might give them the courage to talk to us?
Well, I don't know, but I'll try.
Or the openness to talk to us?
As it turned out, they weren't. We asked Mr. Veroom to help arrange an interview with any of 4 leading companies still selling old chemicals. None would agree to an on-camera interview with Frontline.
If they don't want to talk about it, can the public trust these companies that are producing these products that go on the food I eat?
In fact, industry's own tests suggest that 65 pesticides now in use may cause cancer. But EPA can't just ban them until the link is conclusively proven. So their residues remain part of our daily food supply. But even those tolerances are set for adults.
Kick your legs.
The National Academy of Sciences study on the effects of pesticides was exploring whether the legal residues on food are set too high for infants and children. The committee began to amass some shocking data, according to its original director, Charles Binbrook.
The people that have worked on the Academy Committee and other experts in this field have come to learn that there are some big holes in our safety net when it comes to assuring that the levels of pesticides that the government says are safe and are legal and are sanctioned to be in the food supply. In many instances, those levels are not safe for children.
All right, guys.
What you're saying is that the NAS study found that for those vulnerable populations of children, that the risk has been too high in some cases.
Yes, the report will undoubtedly find that to be the case.
Charles Binbrook was fired by the NAS 1 month after the study's initial deadline.
It was like a classic risk-benefit decision. I became more of a pain than I was worth to the Academy. The agricultural community likes to call for good science in regulation, but it really doesn't want too much good science, particularly when it cuts the wrong way.
Well, okay, let's cut to the chase here. What about this pesticides in the diets of infants and children?
Susan Offit is an agricultural economist. Last year, she moved from the Office of Management and Budget to head up the NAS children's study begun by Charles Binbrook.
Let me say that I am fully aware of the concerns that you have about the study's conclusions and recommendations. We make it a point to try to understand the concerns of the affected constituents, and being able to come to talk to you this morning and keeping in touch with your membership is a good way for us to do that. It matters to us.
The affected constituent Ms. Offit was addressing this day was the National Agricultural Chemicals Association, and she told them something they wanted to hear.
This is a study about the methodology of risk assessment. It is not a risk assessment itself, and it was never intended to be. The responsibility for making judgments about acceptable residue levels of individual chemicals on foods rests with the EPA. It is not within the purview of the committee.
What she is saying is that the 5-year-long study is not likely to provide any real answers about pesticide risks to children. It's not required to conclude if there is any risk, or even propose that legal pesticide residues on certain foods may be too high.
The outcome of a risk assessment is a decision about a risk, the management of a risk. And the committee is not going to perform that function for the federal government. It's going to advise the government on how those decisions should be made.
But the committee's deliberation has been of intense interest to the industry for 5 years.
Who is Don Collins?
Donald Collins is our Director of Food Safety here for NACA.
What's that, Director of Food Safety? What's his job?
His job is public communications, public relations.
This memo obtained by Frontline shows that Don Collins and his Food Safety Task Force kept a close eye on the NAS children's study. In it, he warns of what he calls the kiddies report, that a leak was still possible, but that there was no public pressure for release. The memo suggests regular contact with Richard Thomas, the first person to replace Charles Binbrook as head of the NAS children's study. It identifies Thomas as someone formerly working on industry concerns.